And I need my fingernail polish redone.
Yeah, you're always noticing that.
Very Christmassy.
Well, it's subtle. I mean, that's red and green, dark green. No, I wasn't going that way. Celery and tangerine.
Hi, I'm Patty Robron, welcoming you back to Speaking Truth to Goodness, the podcast where we seek joy and purpose on our burning planet. On air with me in these recordings are my co-hosts, Jerry Atkin and Michaela McCormick, as we continue our enlightening conversation on creating sustainable and inclusive communities and the profound role of kindness in revolutionizing our society. Today we'll explore the historical concept of the commons and how modern equivalents like community gardens and sociocratic community centers embody this spirit. We'll discuss the privilege of contemplation, the power of music in resistance, and the importance of play in building community. Stay tuned as we seek ways to weave the fabric of a more connected and empathetic world. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram to keep the conversation going. And here it is. Well, okay.
So now we get to introduce Patty. Because she needs to be introduced at least twice, because she does, all the work. She's the tech person. She sets us up. She edits all of it. We just come in and have a good time and walk away.
Right.
So she gets introduced twice.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Or maybe 3 times because she brings snacks.
Well, I've been reading a lot about various perspectives on degrowth.
On what?
Degrowth.
Uh-huh.
And ways of dealing with it and why we got to this point. And it's interesting, one book I read recently called Less is More, in part recounts a history of the world, particularly in Europe, moving over 500 years from feudalism to capitalism and all that was in between. I used to think, before I read this, that capitalism developed directly out of feudalism, but in fact there were several centuries where the peasants actually stood up against feudalism, the lords, and created. Have you heard the term commons?
Yeah.
The commons. They created the commons out of just standing up against the lords, and actually between the demise of feudalism, capitalism, they lived pretty well. I mean, they didn't have any luxuries, but they had what they needed, and they didn't work too hard, and nobody was telling them what to do.
Yeah. My understanding is a lot of that had to do with the Black Death, the plague.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden, if you have half the workforce, they
Right.
get to demand more things. They're not just a dime a dozen or
Right.
something, you know?
And all of the trauma and suffering that the plague brought motivated people to also have a lot of celebrations.
And obviously motivated them to work, together.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
they had to. Yeah.
So I see the parallel with the Depression and the Second World War. People had to work together to survive, and they helped each other. And then when you reach greater affluence and capitalism sinks its claws deeper into the psyche, that goes away. Corporations really did make sacrifices during the Second World War. There was something as a common good. That's not here anymore. So But it's nice to know that it's happened, and it's nice to know that it's possible.
Right. And what's part of what's instructive to me about that is that the peasants had nothing to begin with. And they created something. They created a more livable, kind, sharing community.
I'm really thinking about that, because if you're living in communities that have gone through a war or a plague or a depression, whatever that brings you together, now you're actually connected, and now the well-being of someone else matters to you, because you're not in isolation, not just in a relationship to a feudal lord.
Right.
So how we recreate those conditions, one at a time, I guess, is as good as it's going to get right now.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to stay that way, and that was a lesson from what I read too. Was that it might have started out with single acts of cooperation and kindness, but it developed into this system of. They created a commons where all the families had access to places to grow food or raise their sheep or whatever.
Yeah.
I think when I was in Boston Commons, where those swan boats and it's like a fancy place to be now. That is my understanding, that was a commons, just like that. Where It was a big green space that people could, they'd have one cow in their tenement space to have milk. So they'd bring their cow there to graze for the day and then come and get it. It's a great idea. Imagine that, sharing space.
Well, it's also the slowing down of time.
Yeah.
You don't have cars, you don't have high-speed railways, you don't have planes flying and destroying the environment in ways that most people who fly don't even imagine, including me. And, yeah, I have to make an exception to go to my granddaughter's graduation, but other than that. See, but that's wrong. But I have to do that.
Well, I don't know. It's. I don't think you can say categorically that it's wrong. It could be more right.
Take the train.
Take the train.
Sure.
I don't have a job. I can take the train. I'm going to take the train.
But do you see, that's the thing. So many people are backed into a position where they do have a job that they have to be at.
Right.
And they get just a little pittance of time to go not be a worker.
Yeah.
And so what can you do? But if you're going to do anything in that time, you fly.
I think it's a luxury. I think it's a privilege
Yes.
to have the conversation we're having,
Oh my
to
gosh,
think
yes.
the thoughts we're having. I mean, I think we always need to be clear that being able to reflect and actually imagine a better world is primarily a function of privilege. That it's not that other groups don't do that, but it's miraculous when they do, because they have to overcome the weight of history, like the civil rights movement. I mean, that's a great example.
Well, yes and no, but another lesson from this period I read about is that these people, they didn't have anything to begin with, and they had been oppressed by the feudal lords for hundreds of years, and they moved toward a better place. They had somehow they created a vision and they began building it.
Boy, that's really worth studying. I'm really glad you're looking into that.
Since you've created a kind of a map there, which I'm very comfortable with, you want to say something to get us started, to put us in a particular direction?
Yeah, sure. All right. So last time we landed on the idea that small individual actions are what leads to the bigger picture. And that most of our transformation as humans is going to be through person-to-person interactions and lifting each other up. And since we recognize that means we're going to need to be working with people of all different ages who have had all of these different cultural inputs, we need to figure out what small acts we do with people our own age, but also what small acts we do with people of different ages, and understanding how to meet everyone where they're at.
So I know where to go with that.
Okay, you can take it somewhere else too.
It's like being present will come up a lot when I open my mouth. Noticing, like I get to hang out with your 12 and 14-year-old daughters who are insane in the best possible way. To do that, I have to bridge several generations of change. And what does that mean? I have to just be present. I have to observe. I have to listen with intent to understand, not just to let the words for response. And in a sense, that's where all of our activism starts, is by being with people, remembering what Harriet Tubman said, we set a people free, one soul at a time. So every interaction is the one that starts the revolution. And it's hard to hold that consciousness. Mm-hmm. And yet, at some point, it becomes something of a practice. Mm-hmm. So Bill Evans, the first time we got together in that XR Art Affinity Group meeting, came out to me. The first thing he said to me was, "You listen with your whole body." No one had ever acknowledged that before. There are many times when I don't, but when I'm plugged in, I listen with my whole body. And that's how I can easily find my way into the glorious minds of a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old in all their extraordinariness. So that's where it all begins. First of all, is honoring all people.
Yeah.
Wherever they are and whatever struggles and acknowledging that, that's part of the title, speaking truth to goodness. That's an advanced practice. That comes after learning to listen. Then there's learning how to respond. So I don't know. After all these years and all this knowledge and information, I come down to pay attention to people. It's like where it all starts. That's where it started to create the Commons. Yeah. People going through trauma together, coming together, and actually understanding that they had a need for something called the Commons. Well, we have a need for something called the Commons. It ain't happening.
The Commons.
Yeah, it's a beautiful. The phrase causes me to breathe a little deeper. Creating a Commons.
Yeah.
So that's what that makes me think of. And you have always been good at directing us to the non-activist segment. Mm-hmm. Everybody can contribute something. Yeah. And to create spaces for that to happen, we'll have to change the way we organize. So,
Great.
I'm being quiet now for at least 30 seconds.
Well, we haven't lost entirely the Commons. We have things, and we had for many years now, community gardens.
Yes.
Which are a remnant of that, or a reclaiming of that. You could make the argument that wherever there's a neighborhood center or association, that's a Commons.
Yeah.
It's calling people together to connect, to maybe make decisions, to consider what direction their community wants to go in. So we have things to build on. Yeah. And that's, I think I as an activist, have tended to not value that as much as it could be, as much as it may be useful. Because I'm thinking about driving an agenda with the people in power, and that I still think that's necessary, but the people in power have not been listening for so long that we have to do more about building it from the bottom, and that's where the person-to-person stuff comes in.
So this neighborhood association piece, many years ago, more than I can count actually, 40 at least, I ran a neighborhood center in southeast Portland. And it was glorious. And Lee and I had come to Portland fairly recently, and so she was a director for a year, and then she couldn't take the bureaucracy anymore, and she left to do industrial sewing, something honest, which was transformative. We were able to do amazing things. We created like a tool library, which people could come, and we had older workers who would help them, and they were all crazy. And we had a daycare center, and it was an amazing. We had a belly dancing class. We had a.
That's so random.
Well, and even more random is a Parents Anonymous group that met every weekend to deal with their abusive practices. I loved them completely. They were so honest. It's astonishing. Also, that was a commons. The structure in the city actually, I think, has been taken over by propertied people. Mm-hmm. So that their agenda runs counter to this other agenda. Mm-hmm. So everywhere we go, there's going to be resistance to introducing what we think of as the building blocks of a better life for everyone. Mm-hmm. Everyone. Mm-hmm. Not just for us, not just for this group, not that, right. For everyone. So it's interesting. I love doing it because I had to fix the plumbing when it broke and paint the signs and do it all. It was a great job. And then we left Portland, and I didn't get that opportunity again, but I had that opportunity. And it really gives me a concrete memory of how that actually works. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So neighborhood centers not attached to the city structure are where Alder Commons. Have you been to Alder Commons? Mm-hmm. Tell me about Alder Commons.
Yeah, Alder Commons which is funny, they even use the word commons.
Exactly.
It's a community group that started with an intention of supporting like families that are schooling at home or need additional support with childcare, to have a space that would be available to all members of different ages and demographics, with a really focused effort on supporting BIPOC folks in various projects and efforts within that space. They do all of their decision making sociocratically by fingers of five. Yeah, I mean,
it's a model.
Yeah, they're really working to do something cool. I think some of what they had intended got thwarted by the fact that renting out their spaces was a much better way to pay their bills than to do what they had initially tried so hard to do. But yeah, I mean, they are making something toward that goal happen. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was in another one on Prescott in an old church, which is extraordinary. I won't bore you with all the details. But again, these have grown up independently from both just the pressure within the neighborhood for things to happen, but also for progressive people who are organizers of a different kind, who want to be present in a community. Mm-hmm.
I think it was just yesterday I came across this idea of people needing a third space. So I think it was like, most people have home and work, but then that third space, I think for, a long time, in my opinion, toxic way, was church. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I think we are lacking that a little bit, something about that community space.
Well, there's also tavern culture.
Well, that's fair, but could we just say that, well, hey, there's all these church buildings kind of sitting around collecting a lot of dust. I'm going to say let's sweep them out and turn them into that community, that third space, a community space. Again, it just doesn't have to have the dogma attached to it.
Right. Well, Prescott is in a reclaimed church. The Prescott community.
Yeah, that's what made me think of it. But I've thought this for years. I want to buy up old churches and turn them into cool shit for people to come and learn together and work together and repair shit together. And
so at some point,
maybe not graze their cows.
We'll actually do a little handheld filming of Patty as she talks. We have to give her a lot of space. Yeah. Oh, one other thing I wanted to say. This just feels like home. This just feels like this is our commons. This is our spiritual, political, emotional commons. And And everyone is invited.
Mm-hmm. And what we're talking about here is not something that other people don't want. They may not have the same words to talk about it, or they may not even want to talk about it much, but just do it. And so that's part of, I think, the work we have in front of us is how do we invite people into a space that they're very, very possibly wish for, but have to create their own paths to it and not have too much instruction. So when you said the word workshop, Jerry, a minute ago, the first thing that popped into my mind was listening. Not so much us talking, although that's necessary just to create a space, but I think it depends more on listening.
There's so much wisdom sitting around this table. It's ridiculous.
You mean listening?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. You mean like in terms of creating this type of community, like a commons, a new type of commons? You're saying
Right.
that it needs to start with like listening to the community?
Yeah, and creating exercises or games, other ways of playing with each other that get people to relax into thinking more about who they really are and what they really want, as opposed to what their bosses want from them. Or
It sounds a little bit like Zany bits.
yeah.
So, you want to describe Zany bits since you're actually more active in it than I am?
Well, it was brought to us, to a group of us, by our friends Susan and Bill, who have been practicing as a form of therapy for many years, this thing called playback theater. And the idea centrally is that a group comes together and one at a time they share some personal story with the group. And the group then is asked to portray that in a spontaneous way. And the storyteller picks who's going to play what role. Mm-hmm. And they act it out. And then they debrief it. You know, how did that come across to the storytellers?
So that then has been the springboard to preparing street theater to go with our political actions. It is, in fact, quite zany.
Yeah.
And the thing for me, because I can only occasionally participate, is I'll notice, look at and listen, a very diverse, not racially diverse, but class, who they are, coming together and having fun together. And it's like that in itself is an intervention.
Yeah.
And to see how much it means to people to have that space. And as I spoke, technical difficulties were dealt with.
Yeah, and I think how we get to the fun so far in Zany Bits is through this attempt to act out somebody else's real personal story, and them asking us to play particular roles in their story. And that means that we, the actors, the storyteller has already made themselves vulnerable by sharing the story. But then the actors have to on, sort of on a dime, express what the storyteller has described. And that means maybe taking some risks with yourself, expressing an emotion or playing a certain role that you're not initially comfortable with, or so it requires us to take risks in a way, and we don't always hit it right, and that's funny because we're giving each other permission to make mistakes or to
Yes.
to express something in a idiosyncratic way that nobody else would do.
So while we're having other technical difficulties, let me just tell you how I think that pertains to what we're talking about today. In some ways, Patty, what the hell are you doing? In some ways, put it back. But let's think about it. It's like, what's the relationship between being vulnerable in a group of people and building a movement? It's everything. Oh my God, it's everything. On the surface, it does not appear to have that much, but so I think what all of us feel is it's things like this that help shift the energy in a way out of our heads into our guts, and then that energy moves out in our work. Because if good ideas would change things, things would have changed, because there are a lot of good ideas out there.
Can I interject here, though?
Please do. I'm shutting up now.
Not trying to shut you up, Jerry. Okay, so the thing that comes to mind in talking about zany bits and very outward types of doing the work, it occurs to me that not everyone will be served well by getting themselves involved in a playback theater
Absolutely.
style, right? And so this is where our diversification of how we're building a community has to happen, because for me, I classify myself as an introvert, and depending on where life is at, I may or may not also feel more vulnerable or more anxious or whatever, and not be able to put myself out there in such ways and need to be more internal. But I don't think that precludes community. And so I think whatever community we're working on needs to see that not everyone's extroverted enough to express through a playback theater style, right? Or may actually be
Absolutely.
like terrified away from the group because they think, oh no, I'm going to have to do that, and that's not me, right? And so, I mean, it's not a small thing we're dealing with here.
Again,
well, can I finish that one
please,
thought though?
please,
Okay.
please.
Okay, because the thing is, we aren't, we're not dealing just with age differences. We're not dealing just with race and class differences. We're dealing with all of these personality types too. So we are wild. Humans are so much to try to wrangle. But that's the thing. I don't really want to wrangle them. I want to be part of a group that creates a amorphous cloud of space where people get to be themselves and say what's hard that day and know that someone will be like, well, hey, I can help with that, or hey, I went through that too. And how have we lost our humanity so much that I feel like that doesn't happen? Or if it happens in these little micro ways that we have to treasure because it's all we have. But I think that needs to be something that happens more and more out loud. And yeah, that's where my words run out, because it's the thing I struggle with is all of this stuff we're talking about exists in sensations in my body, and it's not always easy to figure out how to turn those into words.
But you're doing it right now.
Trying to, yeah.
And you do it with your art.
I thought you were going to say my arms.
Well, that too. It is a call to arms of
Yeah.
another kind. Not that kind of arms.
The
just-
waving kind. The waving kind. The hugging kind. The
hugging kind.
That'll play. That'll preach.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Call to arms for hugging.
Yes. I can see a poster. I know someone who can create it. It's not me. So much to learn, and it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take generations. But, even back in the political days, they would say the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. We're in the single step phase of movement building. I'm sorry, I wish that weren't true. But I think we are, and if we don't take that step, it's not going to happen. And it has to happen. We need a movement to protect each other and the planet.
So here's the thing. How do we help our fellow humans to recognize that that is needed? Because it seems like when humans have recognized that need in the past, it took things like the Black Death for us to go, oh, hey, maybe we should do this different. I mean, let's hope it can be done without something that massive bringing us together.
Well, but in fact, conveniently and inconveniently, we're facing a similar situation now.
I mean, that's fair. It's just slow moving where we don't see it every day in our face.
Yeah, but it's going to pick up its pace.
You're right. Climate change, you're talking.
Yeah. So, and I think it's going to, and I've been saying this for some time, that it's going to take things getting a lot worse before people begin to understand how we need to change. Mm-hmm. I mean, lots of people.
That sounds a lot like Lenin when you get right down to it. You have
Lenin.
to heighten the contradiction.
Well,
so you learn to take language like that and translate it into something useful.
Doesn't that mean we need to be working right now, like we're doing, to have something in place to catch those people, right? Once, because it's not going to happen all at once. There's going to be a few here and there who are getting spun off of the wheel of capitalism, and they're waking up to what's going on, and we got to be a net. Be like, hey, we're here.
Right.
Join us. We can do this. You can help define it. That's the thing. I think people maybe shy away from getting involved in stuff because they think as soon as I'm going to talk for myself. This is how I do with groups. I'm not always good with groups because I have this thing in my head where if I join a group, I'm going to have to buy into everything they're saying. And I rarely do, But that is also my particular trauma, having been through a cult and church of high control type thing. So I realize that, but I also realize that's a people thing, right? Not necessarily a church. It's a thing that we do. We come up with, here's our way that we do this.
Yeah, the positive part of that is that groups come together because they're seeking some common ground.
Okay, yeah.
And once they start gathering together, creating a structure and doing things together, they create more common ground, and that's valuable. I mean, that's the glue, The difficulty is that it too often turns into dogma or expectations of not going outside the boundaries.
Yes, like it defines a morality that's specific to that group. And that is such a turnoff to me. And I can only think I'm not the only one.
Yeah, but it's not just morality. It's habits or ways of operating or ways of learning. Like most of the people in Extinction Rebellion here in Portland are not interested in doing theater. And we haven't shared that enough with the rest of them yet to make it possible for others to say, oh, maybe I'd like to do that too. So it's a process, and it's a matter of everybody continuing to want to learn and to listen to each other so that those hard boundaries don't get built.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want to jump in here, though, because I think that we may have this notion of, or this impression that everybody could come to ways of thinking like this if they're exposed to the right information, right? We've talked about this, I think, before, But where I take that from that point is a recognition of how, as a culture, we have made it so wrong to be wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Right.
No, wrong.
Wrong, yeah. I mean, even if you look at being in school, well, school's about learning new things, right? And I will maintain that we learn the most when things go wrong. This is a thing we say a lot in my house. Other than science, I don't think we learn anything until something goes wrong. We might learn something and be able to repeat steps. But to learn, we learn when life sucks. But we've made it seem like that's a problem. And so when we get, red pen marked on our test, and that makes it bad, that means we get a bad grade. What? We're vilifying making mistakes when that is in fact the only way we learn? That to me is such a big deal in terms of people being even able to engage with these ideas or to do something other than just protect themselves. Because I think so many people are in fight or flight mode all the time, just worried they're not going to live up to expectations. Mm-hmm. And when they're focused on that, there is no way they're going to be able to look at other people in the room across the street, living on the street, and go, whoa, maybe we can do better for them. Because they're just trying to make it too. We've broken them. We've made them think they're not good enough. We've made them think when they fuck up, they're not good enough anymore. And that's, it's so destructive. It's so destructive. The words are just going to go all mushy on me now because anyway.
Well, it's difficult to speak when two people are giving you shit-eating grins. It's so interesting because there's a poster and I don't like it, but it says, all of us know more than any of us. Absolutely true. It's just not catchy, but yeah. Don't you feel like I feel like I'm so much smarter when I'm talking with the two of you than otherwise?
Yeah.
And as for bad leadership, misguided, let's not call it bad, let's call it misguided, a style of leadership that actually won't get us where all of us want us to go. Lee said, you would never belong to a group unless you were the leader. And I had no desire to be the leader, but like you, I was never going to take bad leadership. So if accepting bad leadership is part of the deal, count me out.
Yeah.
So we have to stop making judgments. We have to start accepting people where they are.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Speaking Truth to Goodness. Today, we discussed the essence of the commons as a foundation for mutual support and joy, emphasizing the significance of each act of kindness in paving the path toward a better society. As we reflect on our discussions about creating spaces for community, celebration, and activism, we're reminded that change begins with us in the small, everyday interactions that foster understanding and connection. We hope this conversation inspires you to find your own ways to contribute to the commons in your community. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more insightful discussions, and follow us on Instagram to share your thoughts and experiences with us. Until next time, keep speaking truth to goodness, because goodness is all around.